Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Junk Be Gone, Phoenix Conversions.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source. Happy to have you with us. Spring practice underway over at the University of Tennessee campus, and we're going to talk about it. The next 90 minutes is pretty much football. Man, it's good to talk that for a change. Let's just get right into it. We got a good group. Let's start off. First segment of our show brought to you by our friends at the Garza Law Firm. If you find yourself in need of a quality attorney, turn to a man who's been part of the East Tennessee community for an eternity, for years and years, Marcos Garza and the Garza Law Firm, for top-notch representation, for just peace of mind when you need an attorney. Visit garzalaw.com to learn more about the agency today. Check them out. We're happy to have them on the Sports Source. I think you'd be wise to give them a visit. You never know when you might need an attorney. garzalaw.com. All right, let's welcome in the fine panel today. We have former Vol football player, former NFL player Will Overstreet with us. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, John.
Right down there, David Ubben from The Athletic. David, how long, you were telling us before the show here, how long has it been since since media's seen an actual practice rep?
It's in the 380-day range.
It's been a while.
We saw about 10 minutes in the first practice before the shutdown, and we have not seen anything since. And they've had 2 that were canceled by weather. So
you're chomping
cross your fingers for Tuesday.
There we go. And right there we got Vince Farrar from WNML, AM and FM. You can hear him all over the radio, all over their radio schedule, morning, noon, and night. Vince, thanks for being here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
All right. Spring practice, as I said, started a couple days ago. It started later than planned due to a COVID outbreak among some of the adults over there, some of the staff members. But they did get underway. Josh Heupel's first team, it's now Heupel's program officially. Let's cover some of the news, although it's not really news. I think there were some people that were still holding out hope. Henry To'oTo'o's back in Knoxville. Could it be that he's back so he's going to join the team? No. Henry To'oTo'o, Quavaris Crouch, they're not back, and most people didn't expect them back. So, no surprise, but also you would have to say certainly a loss for the program that you didn't get the surprise. It would have been a huge coup for Josh Heupel if he could have walked out there and said, "Yeah, these guys are back." Didn't happen. It is a hit to the program. We've discussed it before. Will, your thoughts on losing 2 linebackers from a team that really has no linebackers?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a good situation. I mean, obviously that position didn't play great at times last year, but I mean, you're looking at the two starters in that situation that are not going to be there. So, just in a matter of depth, you're losing there, and especially when you're having to look at going into a new system, you would like to have an experienced linebacker, the guy making the calls, to be able to kind of calm everybody down and learn that and be able to talk to the other players through that. So it is a big loss. There's no way to understate that or overstate that. It's one of those things that you're going to have to work through in this defense. That's going to be a challenge this year that is going to be interesting to watch how they work around that with what they have.
The coaches have been prepared for them not being there. They've made it pretty clear. I think there were some fans that were disappointed that they didn't make and we don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but it sure didn't seem that they were making a big all-out push that we've got to get these guys back. Heupel and crew pretty much said, well, our team's on the rosters. That's who we're dealing with right now, not guys who aren't here. I think that was probably wise inside the building, as in terms of getting a guy back on the field, that would help. But if you'd let these guys disappear and then come back and they're practicing with you and you don't know if they're going to stay here for the fall or if they're just staying in shape so they can then transfer to Alabama, I don't see much benefit to that. So your thoughts on how Heupel handled this thing?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't done a ton of active recruiting. It doesn't sound like a lot of conversation is happening. They've left that door open, but they've said it. The focus on the guys who are in the building. We asked that sort of begged the question of what the players thought. I asked those players what they thought about it, and most of them said, "Hey, we are focusing on the guys in the building, but we'd love to have them back. Those are still your brothers." And Matt Butler said everybody's thought about transferring. So they've had 2 coaching changes since that 2017 class got here. He's like, so I've thought about it, and you can't blame anybody for doing that. And those guys are stuck in limbo right now. I think the timing, as far as all the other guys that left in the portal, most of those guys have found new homes, and those are 2 really big talents that are not there. 2 guys that those are two of the three leading tacklers from the Vols last year, 133 tackles together last
we'll
season.
show that a little later.
Yeah, and it's a big loss. I think people want to just shrug it off and say, "Oh, we'll be fine." Okay.
Yeah. Vince, those two guys not being around wasn't a surprise. There was one surprise this week. A couple of weeks ago, we learned that 4 Tennessee players had been involved in an arrest on campus and had been suspended. 3 of them were named, all of them incoming freshmen. One of them wasn't named because he was a minor. Got the name this week, Caden Salter, the hotshot recruit from Texas that everybody wanted to come in and play quarterback. He was one of the guys in this incident over there at Stokely Hall. He is suspended at the moment, and you got to think that it would have been – now, everyone was starting fresh with a new coach. So you look at it that way and say maybe that that gives him a little bit of a better chance to come in and star and win this job. The reality is the least experienced man in the room, my guess is he wasn't going to win the job anyway, but with this thing hanging over him, I think you could take him out of the quarterback race.
Well, certainly, because you're already, as a freshman, you're already running uphill and trying to catch up just because other guys have game experience. And then the new system, the new way of doing things, the new way of taking reps, and the tempo being so different from what they've done before, I think it is very much a setback for Caden Salter. And also, it makes you wonder about maybe his decision-making, his leadership, the discipline that you need at that position. So those are now concerns and things you have to play out now.
Yeah, you hope somebody's, first few weeks on campus gets involved in something. You hope that's just stupid kid, you know. You hope that's just a mistake and you move past it and grow up from it. But it is one that you then set yourself up because that's always going to be on the resume now. I mean, we've all made mistakes, and it just lives with you. If it ever comes up again, it's there. So for his sake, you hope that was just I got away from home for the first time ever, and I made a mistake with some guys on the team.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, Will?
Well, I think that's why the coaching staff had to pull so hard, why they suspended him. I think you want to give him an immediate wake-up call that this can all go away very quickly, and you're a freshman. Shock and all right then and there at the very beginning, especially in spring, of you better get this right because this ain't going to last long if you don't.
Well, and it's not a great finish, as if anything was going well on the Pruitt thing, but on his way out the door, 4 of the guys that he had lined up for Heupel to sign, they immediately get on campus and get into trouble.
Yeah.
So yet another thing that Josh Heupel didn't need as he took over is your roster's already thinned out. You could probably use some guys to help out this year, and yet you got 4 freshmen that come in and get immediately suspended. Thoughts on buy-in, energy? David, what are you hearing in terms of the reaction? Because we talk about it so much. These guys have been through multiple coaching changes. We heard after things went off the deep end last year, and once Pruitt was gone, you had players that kind of opened up and said, yeah, there were a lot of players that never bought in. Okay, let's talk about buy-in with I would assume that there's a natural reaction from some of these guys to go, okay, yet another new guy, whatever, just give me your spiel.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on what you're hearing so far in terms of energy and buy-in from the team?
Well, I mean, it's very different. We've talked about this. It's just a totally different situation in Tennessee, and I think a lot of people, it's sort of like a first couple dates sort of situation. You're not really sure what you think of these people, but you're willing to kind of, hey, let's invest in this. Let's see where this goes. And so are you going to see more guys maybe leave after spring when they give it a chance? I mean, maybe a few. But, at this point, it seems like it's going pretty well. I mean, I think you're seeing one thing from the coaching staff. They're staying very positive. You're not hearing any well, he's got to do this, he's got to do this. It's a lot of oh, I love this about this guy. I love this about this guy. I love this about this guy. Trying to build up some of that relationship when they've spoken publicly about guys. I think that's an interesting strategy. It's not something that we saw with the previous staff, which was very, very tentative with public praise with any players. And, these are all style issues. But at this point, in terms of buy-in culture, I guess as good as you can expect. Just we haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I mean, after what this group has gone through, I don't know that a drill sergeant approach would have helped matters. And we've talked about that, Vince, the fact that he has done a lot of the team building exercises, and we're going to get together and play dodgeball, and we're going to get together and watch the Super Bowl. I would be surprised if you had a bad report in terms of energy and buy-in from day 1, day 2. But it would make sense that some of that work would pay off at least early.
Well, and a number of the players, Alontae Taylor, Jacob Warren, were talking about this week how much fun they had after practice. When's the last time you heard that from a player after a Tennessee football practice? And that's not just to be easy on them. That's to get that buy-in that we're talking about and get the results and the investment. When players are talking amongst each other, how much fun they had, yet it was still hard work, that's how you take the route towards getting better. And I do think the coaching staff, when we've heard from them, they're believable. They sound authentic. Yeah, they say a lot of the coach speak stuff, but I do think they come across as more sincere. And I wonder if that is resonating with the players early on. Now, obviously, you get into adversity, it could go south, and they're like, well, we don't really know that they know what they're talking about. Maybe that happens. But right now, I do think because they do come across as genuine, I think it's resonating with those players.
Yeah, that's one thing Alex Golesh said yesterday is he's like, we haven't had any adversity yet, so we don't really know. It's like, these guys have been through a lot, just not with us, and we'll see.
That was kind of the wake-up call when Jeremy Pruitt came in and everyone was feeling pretty good about things. I know some of the media were like, we're going to beat Tennessee's going to beat West Virginia. And then they go out and get their doors blown off, and it's like, oh, wait, there's football here. There's actual work to be done. So, yeah, you want to hear good things right now, but at the same time, I'm not taking that to the bank that it's going to mean anything in the fall. It would be a bad sign if you were hearing awful things at this point, because that would really be a bad sign for the fall. All right, when we come back, which side? We talked about tackles being gone, tackles they're missing. We're going to take a look at that. There's been a lot of discussion that offense will be ahead of the defense this year simply because of the system. Well, let's just look at it from a production standpoint. What's gone and what's coming back? Which side of the ball is actually in better shape, offense or defense? We'll show you something next. Come back on the Sports Source.